British drivers have hit at growing problems on the roads, including anger towards congestion, new yellow vulture speed cameras, and road maintenance, creating huge frustrations for those on UK roads. The Alliance of British Drivers listed a series of concerns, which is hitting Brits in the pocket, with the government always trying to exert greater control over every aspect of where you go and what you do. The drivers listed newly developed speed cameras, parking charges, congestion, and taxation among some of the growing concerns for Brits on the roads. Brian Macdowall, a spokesman from the Alliance for the British Drivers, listed the growing concerns for motorists. He said, "The state of the roads, despite the £60 billion extracted from motoring, taxation nationally, congestion, the daily slog to get anywhere, and the constant restrictions that have faced the changes in the road network, taxation is a real issue. Not only do you have to pay heavily to get your car on the road in the first place, but you also have to pay an awful lot to maintain it. On top of that, speed camera fines, yellow box junction fines, they're all extra. All these things combined make driving frustrating, inconvenient and expensive." The Alliance of British Drivers raged at the growing cost for British motorists. Image Getty. Ian Taylor, the chairman of the Alliance of British Drivers, claimed that every measure introduced by the government seems to hit the British driver in the pocket. He said, "Whether it be ordinary parking charges, workplace parking charges, it is always hitting you in the pocket, and always trying to exert greater control over every aspect of where you go and what you do." He added, "I can't obviously speak for every single British driver, but it definitely is control, 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 restrict, 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 charge, charge, charge. It is a system I have once several times before described as Big Brother employing Robocops." Speaking about the concerns of British drivers across the UK, Mr. Taylor said, "It is a combination, I would say, of growing congestion, insufficient roads for the demand, growing expense, and growing restrictions." One motorist described speed cameras as metal mugging machines. Image Getty. He added, "Restrictions generally, whether it be emission zones, congestion zones, it is forever getting more difficult to drive to places. There are more and more places we are being excluded from, at a time of growing congestion and growing demand, that is being made worse by our precious road space that we pay more than anyone else for, being taken away." The motorist listed new yellow vulture speed cameras as a major concern for road users, as they can see drivers penalized for a number of offences. The cameras, which have been launched in an attempt to improve road safety, differ from traditional speeding cameras as they work in pairs and can spot motorists not only speeding but also using their phone while driving, and even when a driver isn't using a seatbelt. All these things combined make driving frustrating, inconvenient and expensive. Brian Macdowall, Mr. Taylor said, "There have always been different sorts of cameras. More and more they are going over to average speed. Once again, it all comes down to is the speed limit being set correctly and appropriately. The latest ones, you don't know if you've been caught or not because you don't get flashed. The most modern ones can see who is in the car, see if you are wearing a seatbelt, see if they are holding a phone. If more drivers are caught, their licenses are at risk and it is going to cost them more because they are going to get fined." Mr. Macdowall added, "The authorities are insistent that the metal mugging machines, as they are sometimes known, are the answer to road safety. It's a one-trick pony, and it falls well short of what is needed." Both motorists called for more focus on improving drivers' standards and abilities behind the wheel, which they claimed would lead to a decline to safer roads. Express.co.uk contacted the Department for Transport, the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government and the Local Government Association, but they refused to comment. Brian Macdowall of the Alliance of British Drivers spelt out motorists' growing concerns in the UK. Image Express. The motorists also criticised the congestion zone in London among one of the biggest concerns for drivers and warned against the introduction of the ultra-low emissions zone, ULEZ, which could see drivers penalised if they do not comply to the restrictions. Mr. Macdowall claimed the introduction of the ULEZ would see the lowest earners hit, which would see a big cost to drivers by unnecessary changes. The ULEZ, which will be introduced as of April 2019 in London, could see drivers charged £12.50 a day to use, which when paired with the congestion charge fee will total £24. Drivers will be forced to pay the daily ULEZ fee if they do not meet the required emissions standard when they enter the congestion charge zone. CCZ. The ULEZ is enforced 24 hours a day 7 days a week, while the CCZ is only enforceable between the hours of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. Sign indicating the start of the congestion charge zone. Image Getty. Mr. Macdowall claimed it really is going to be a big cost for drivers, with only motorists only now becoming more aware at the costs they could face. He said, "It is going to be a huge cost to huge drivers. Anybody who has not got what TfL compliant vehicle will be paying a daily charge £12.50 7 days a week. Regardless of throughout the year, for those on lower incomes, you are seriously looking at replacing your vehicle to get a more modern vehicle, or stopping driving altogether," he added. Drivers are slowly becoming more aware. But, until drivers start getting fined left, right and center, the impact will become more apparent. The people who feel they are most affected are disabled drivers, the elderly, and those who feel they rely on driving to get into work, and the white van man. The growing realization is coming here. Speaking about the CCZ generally, the chairman for the Alliance of British Drivers, Mr. Taylor, added, "We are 100% against. It doesn't stop congestion. It doesn't solve the problem," he added. Driving in central London has become not particularly attractive, but, on the other hand, because London is such a big and well-populated place, unlike a lot of other places, you can have better public transport alternatives that you get elsewhere. None of these systems can take all the demand to travel alone. Where London starts, other councils look to follow. Yes, there are some nasty pollution spots, not saying you should try to clean the air up, but we have already over the years made some great strides in doing so, and getting cleaner year on year. Alex Williams, TfL's Director of City Planning, said, "Air pollution causes the early deaths of thousands of Londoners each year. It stunts children's lungs, increases the risk of dementia and hits the poorest hardest. The ULEZ will improve the quality of Londoners' lives by nearly halving road-based NOx emissions in central London. We have contacted everyone who has driven a non-compliant vehicle in the zone over the last year on top of a large-scale communications campaign, and have recently announced that £48 million has been set aside to help small businesses scrap polluting vans and support low-income families. Additionally, vehicles with disabled tax class will be exempt from the ULEZ for 6 years.